Good morning. How are you? I haven't done this for a few weeks. Basically, because I was waiting for something else to happen that has to do with this, and it hasn't happened yet. But this morning I was looking for a book on Gauguin, and because I had just read something about Gauguin in the South Seas, basically his time on Tahiti and the Marquesian Islands. Very interesting. The guy did a good job, the author there. The author was also a participant in the Kon-Tiki voyage. I didn't delve into that, what part he played, but I have that on my to-do list. I got to look up all the people that hired it all. I think it was Thor Heyerdahl or something like that, selected for his approximately 5 or 6 man crew. And so that was extremely interesting. But anyway, the book was great, and I was looking because I know I have another book on Gauguin, and I went to a bookshelf where I thought it was. I looked a couple of places. I haven't found it yet, but on the one bookshelf, when I did this first talk about books, I was seriously looking for this one wonderful book on Indians, but I couldn't find it. It wasn't in the shelf where I had left it. So I thought it grew legs and it walked. But this morning, looking for Gauguin, or whatever you pronounce it, there was something I saw on the spine of the book, the title, something like Touch the Earth. And I said, I wonder if that's the book. All I knew was the book was about Indians. So I pulled it out, and it was thicker than the book I had in mind. And that's why I didn't find the book the first time, because I was looking for a thinner book. But I did find it, Touch the Earth. The person who compiled all these quotes from various Indians and the photography, the photos from Edward Curtis, I believe is the fellow's name. And what a wonderful job. What a wonderful thing. Yeah, let's see. Edward Curtis, the early part of the 20th century, took the photographs. And basically, these are little excerpts, probably about 70, of Native American individual Indians who had much to say about the disaster that came from over the Great Pond to annihilate their civilization, their culture. Let's not even call it civilization, because that always connotates what we have. But anyway, the discussions by these individual Indians are just wonderful. So that's the name of the book, Touch the Earth. And the fellow who put it together, once again, I'll make sure I mention his name, T.C. McLuhan, and it's filled with Edward Curtis photographs, those daguerreotypes, the brown and tones, just perfect. It's a work of art. The book is a work of art, but it also is just so rich with the constellation of phenomenon and impressions and thoughts that went through these people, and those who could express themselves and talked about this, and somehow these ideas and words got put down and remain with us. Certainly there were plenty of people doing ethnographic work on Indians, the original people here, whether they were the Sioux or the Iroquois or the Cree and the Blackfoot and this, that, and the other thing. There's quite a bit. And in this book, the last section is a part that the compiler here says, these are the people who wanted to be recognized, the various sources. And it's quite extensive. And when I was reading it, it became abundantly clear that none of us, except for the scholarly, well-focused individual, really have no idea who these people were and how they lived and what was great about their existence. We have no idea. You know, we think we do. Some of us do, like yours truly. But we don't. We have no idea. And what it is, you know, what are you going to do? You know, that's the way it is. We don't. But I feel particularly a little bit fortunate that I grew up in an era when there was still some fairly mainstream touch with the Indian past. People knew a little bit about them. People would talk about them. And then you didn't have to be a scholar or a college student or an anthropologist. Oh, my word. But, you know, it was still something you could have in your everyday life. And that's key here, everyday life. It wasn't something that I would have to go out of my way for. You know, so I feel fortunate to have had that. Now, it certainly has gone away. I mean, that is not part of today. And I will make the claim right now, before I even forget this, is that the anthropology that I've read, and not just about the American Indians, but all the various peoples of the world, when they were in their native and traditional state, they had nothing in their lives that we can make a one-to-one relationship with the lives of civilized people. And yet, what do the anthropologists tell us all the time, and the sociologists, and even more than likely the archaeologists? They'll say, well, see, this is in this and that religion of today, this points directly to what the doody-doos in the past did. And we can make a reference that these things are similar. Well, I'm here today. It's 2020, and 2020. And having listened to that and bought into that for many years, I'm here today to tell you that absolutely is not true. Absolutely not true. It's just incredible that you would even believe for a moment that something that we do today has its corresponding something in these past civilizations, these past cultures. It's just incomprehensible, which underlines that with all the study, they still don't know anything. They know very little. You know, they can catalog signs and types of art and blah, blah, blah. But they don't know the essence of who these people were. They don't know the essence of a peace, a silence, a wilderness, and it's in their daily lives. They don't know that, and they never will. It's all been destroyed, you know, for the sake of what we get today. We get mushmash. You know, they go the age of anxiety, the age of this, that, and the other thing, the industrial age. This is the mushmash age. You know, it's just horrible, just horrible. But I'm not here to denigrate that. I was here to praise a very wonderful book, and I would hope that every library in America has Touched the Earth by McLuhan, and you can get a copy of it off its shelf. And you could look at the wonderful photographs. You could read what these people said about the invasion of their homes and their lifestyles, if you want to go. But I hate to use contemporary terms to and apply them to these people. Once again, whether we're North American original people or South American, Asian, the islands, whatever, I just don't like to do that. I can't think of an Arapaho or an Ula Sioux, or a nomadic Cree in Canada having a lifestyle. Now, to underscore that, it just jumped into my mind, is that early on, a very well-intentioned I believe he was a Swedish aristocrat, wanting to go back and get out of that life that he was in Europe. He wanted to get closer connected to life. So he tried the South Pacific first, somewhere around the South Seas, and that didn't work for him. So then he went to north of the Arctic Circle. And it's just wonderful. This book is just great. And he says he's out there on an ice floe, him and his small party. They've never seen any Eskimos. They've never seen any original people. And off in the distance, here comes this troop of Eskimos in their dog sleds, and they're just coming, chum, 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 chum. And they come by these guys, and the Swedish dude and his contemporaries there, and they look at them and they say, Kabluna. So that is the name of his book, explaining all this travel. And Kabluna to the Eskimo means that which cannot be. So that's how far apart we are from these people of earlier ages. We cannot be, and what we understand of them, we don't, and we can't understand it. So to us, they cannot be. We cannot be. These people that try to make a connection, they're off base. They'd be better served to just say, we don't know about them, and they don't know about us, and they didn't. And just leave it at that, Or there's some things that one could learn from the other and the other from the other. Sure. Like we could learn to put two shells together over our eyes to avoid sun blindness. Certainly we could do that. We could do many things. But the point is, and I'll say it again, this is a wonderful book. I'm not going to quote from it, but I will say that the pictures in it are wonderful. Edward Curtis, of course, is a star of great magnitude in the photographic era and in ethnographic documentation. Wonderful stuff. You will, if you do this, get that book, and you'll see a number of names of the Indians that you'll recognize, who have books of their own. And some of those are a little difficult to slough through or sludge through or whatever. But you should, at least if you casually glance through it. And then to try to really get a feel for how they may have lived is to try to live outdoors as much as possible. Make your backyards a living wilderness instead of a manicured whatever we make today with these manicured gardens. I think it is because everybody's trying to live up to the Joneses. They want their backyards to be a Queen Britain English country estate. Look to make your backyard a little bit of wilderness if you can. Try to be out there at sunset, at sunrise. Try to make a fire and watch the smoke rise into the sky. Do these things, and then when you're doing them, think of what the Indians had every day, part and parcel of their lives. And they didn't have to think about it. They didn't have to make it as a special entity from their otherwise boring and hard to take lives, which we have to do, We have to get away from the freeways and the parkways and the malls and the TVs and the doodad little gadgets and gimmicks and all that garbage that has subsumed us. We need to get away from that. And I think if you read this book on a leisurely afternoon and let the elements of this book truly enter deeply into who you are, you may get up and say, I'm going to go outside and just take a turn around the yard. And it doesn't have to be a big yard, any size yard, and try to make my life filled with a little bit of peace and maybe a little bit of touch of nature, a little bit of touch of wilderness, and see what a difference that makes in your lives. Hopefully it'll make a lot of difference. And on that note, I'm going to try to turn this thing off again one of these marvelous gadgets that I just talked about. It's not off yet.